I'm going to show you a technique with your CNC router that most CNC router owners don't know about or think about that's going to help you with some of your CNC projects.
idcwoodcraft.com.
I'm Garrett Fromme, the owner of IDC Woodcraft, the company that provides you with CNC router bits. So this is all about your spoil board. On a CNC router, we have a spoil board generally made of MDF, and the purpose of this is if your CNC bit dives too deep and cuts into it, it's not going to hurt the CNC bit. But the thing with a spoil board is it is a consumable, and over time you wear out the spoil board, then you have to replace it. This spoil board here has been replaced very recently because it has a lot of cuts in it. And you can see I've already made a couple new cuts into my spoil board, and I want to spare my spoil board because it's a lot of work to replace this thing. So here's the technique that you can use in order to save your spoil board. And that technique is to use what we call a sub-spoil board, or another spoil board that you put on top of your regular spoil board, so you can ruin a much smaller piece of spoil board over time. So I have this project. It's a little component I need to make for a machine at the office, and I'm going to make it out of this plastic. This is HDPE, and plastic cuts beautifully, particularly this. It cuts like butter. And you use what's called an O-Flute bit on this, and you'll see it run in just a little bit. But the whole point of this is to show you the spoil board. On the spoil board, the one that I've made here, I got some tape here because I prepared this whole thing to make this part, but you can see these grid lines on here. These grid lines match the grid lines I have on my spoil board here. So I can align the whole spoil board according to spaces that I know on my CNC router. And I have marked on the corner, which would be the top left corner, or would point to the back left of the machine. So the first thing is how do you work with a sub-spoil board? Because you want it to come on and off real quick. And the technique that I use, and I use this to hold projects down, but this is a very quick way of holding a spoil board down very securely. And it's with something that IDC Woodcraft provides. It's called the EdgeHugger clamp system. So the deal with the EdgeHuggers, I got to show this to you so you understand why I'm going to be using these, is they are very, very small clamps, but they have a ton more holding force than your standard clamps that you use, those long bar clamps. That's what we're going to set up. And these clamps are very low profile. I'm going to show you how to set them up just because I want you to understand how these things work because they work so well. The EdgeHugger clamps, they have a holding force per clamp of 1,000 pounds per square inch, which is about 8 times higher than what your long bar clamps will do. Here's how these things are set up, and you'll understand here in just a minute why this is my only clamps I ever use now. This set has 4 clamps with it. It's got the nuts that ride in the T-tracks, and then various different lengths of screws. So we need to set the clamps up for the appropriate thickness of the material. And so what we want to do is set your calipers to metrics. And what you'll do is just measure from the top of your material all the way down to the bottom of the T-track, and then you'll add 5 millimeters to that. So we're at 35.8. We're going to go with the 40 millimeter screw for the EdgeHugger clamps. And these set up really quickly. And you're going to understand why in a minute. You might want to consider switching over to these, even though this video is about this spoil board. So I'm going to take the clamp, set it up. We'll put the little T-nut on it like that, and that will slide it into the T-track. Just like that. And then we're going to put that on the back side of the clamp, and then I'm going to set up the other 3. So the first thing I do is I decide where this board is going to be relative to my spoil board. So I'm putting this back left corner on this corner of the grid right here. Now I have all my grids marked. I've got to actually have them engraved right into the machine. So this is Y minus 28 from the home position, and this way is X12 from the home position. So I can actually program into the machine to go to that exact point. Now we got the board positioned, and I know I'm not going to cut into my spoil board now. And then we just take our provided hex wrench with it and get that in a position. You do all 4 of them, and then what you'll do is hold that clamp in place with your thumb and then give it a little snug. And that's it. You don't have to crank it down like you do with those big handles on the longer clamps. The thing we want to make sure of, though, is that it's in line with this grid line, which I am. So we're good. So I'm going to put all 4 of these in place. And you can see how fast and easy it is to set these clamps up. And you're probably going to notice already that these clamps are super low profile. They're not like those other clamps that hang way up here where you have a collision risk, high collision risk. I've hit many clamps, broken CNC router bits. It's not something that any of us want to do, and I'm going to show you why these are so good about the holding force. By the way, these are plastic. The plastic is a engineer grade thermal plastic with it's fiber reinforced. So I didn't really tighten these down super tight, but they're all snug. Now, try that with your other clamps. All right, we're all set up. So all we have to do now is position my piece on here and then run it out. Before we do that, I've got another spoil board right here. This is my slap-on consumable board. I don't have any lines on it. I can just throw it right on the machine. This spares this whole spoil board. So let's run this out. I'm actually going to run with an O-Flute bit, but I'm going to do a different technique because I got to put holes in this project, and so I'm going to do a spiral drill on these parts. I've never done that with an O-Flute bit before, so I actually have a test hole I'm going to make to see if it works. So I'm using the CA glue hold down method for the plastic, and if I spill some of this over the spoil board and things stick, it doesn't really matter because it's a consumable. All right, so let's get that put in position here. So I'm using Starbond thin CA glue. So, and you can see it very quick, it's already held down. The first thing I'm going to do is actually surface the components. I got to get it down to the thickness that I want. And I'm going to do all this with the 1/8 O-Flute bit, and I'm going to do a cutout with it as well. So let's run that test hole. Okay, so I want to show you what an O-Flute bit is, but first, one of the rules of thumb, when you change out a bit, you always clean out the collet, the sawdust in the collet. So if there's any still in there, then you can take a toothbrush and brush that out. So we're going to switch out our collet and put the 1/8 collet in because I'm using a 1/8 shank bit, the O-Flute. And it's this guy right here. So I'm going to show you what the difference is with an O-Flute versus your traditional downcut end mill. So this is your traditional downcut end mill. And when you turn, it's got these 2 flutes on it. And these flutes are shallow. So the flute is actually the pocket in front of the blade where the chips go, and then they can eject up or down. Whereas an O-Flute bit has a single flute. And I'm not sure why they call it an O-Flute, but that's what it is. But if you notice, it's got a very deep flute. And that is there to give plenty of room for the plastic to be ejected out of it. And you can see it's got just kind of a different shape to it all the way around. It's got a point on one side here. This is how O-Flute bits are set up. But we're going to use the 1/8 O-Flute, get that puppy set up. And the one that's provided by IDC Woodcraft has a 5/8 flute length. That's the cut depth that you can get out of the O-Flute. So if you're ever going to cut plastic, an O-Flute is generally the CNC bit that you want to use. So the reason we use O-Flute bits for plastic is because plastic melts. And so what we need to do is make sure those chips get ejected very quickly. So this is why we use O-Flute bits. If we use your standard 2-flute up cutter or down cutter, you don't have enough room for that chip to eject. And that chip is going to catch up in your flutes, melt onto your router bit, and then it's going to start making your cuts look really bad. And that's why we want to use O-Flute bits. All right, so I'm going to set my 0 on this, and then we're going to do we're going to cut the areas these little pieces that I'm going to make. I'm going to cut it down to the thickness, and then we're going to try to do that hole. I've never done a spiral cut hole with an O-Flute bit before, so we'll see how that works. Just before we get started, I want to show you exactly what I'm cutting here. I'm cutting components that are about 2.5 inches long by 1 inch wide, and it's got holes in it. Now all this is done in metrics because the machine that this is going to be mounted on is done in metrics. So here is basically the material that I can work with. You notice that that piece of plastic was funny shape. This is the material size here that I've created is what I can make. So we're just going to run it so you can see exactly what it is. I'm just going to run all the tool paths. We're going to surface first. Okay, so we have just surfaced it down to the thickness that I need, and then we're going to do a test hole, which would be that right there. Very quick process, and then we're going to do all the holes, if provided that test hole works. And you can see now I'm doing all the holes. There's some extra material in the middle. I'm not worried about that. And then we'll do the cutout. And the cutout will look like this. There we go. And those are the components that I'm going to be making, except they're not brown, they're black. I've already set my X and Y, so we'll just do my probe. All right, we're ready to rock and roll. We're going to do the first test hole. Keep my fingers crossed. No, the surfacing, sorry. Here we go. Come on, baby, do it right. I'm not worried about surfacing cleanly because this is just intended to be a spacer. All right, so if you notice with this HDPE, how quiet it runs, it's actually going a little slow. And you notice that if you look over here, bring the camera over this way, and you see just, all the chips are just kind of flying off to the side. So I'm getting good ejection. And these chips are just beautiful chips. I love these chips. You roll around. There's a close-up image of these chips, so you can see exactly what they look like. So we're just going to run that out. I can speed that up a little bit, the feed rate on that. The top surface looks a little messy because I'm using a larger step over on it, because that surface doesn't matter, and I can sand it down real quick. I love cutting HDPE. It's so easy to cut. I'm going to speed it up a little bit more. So my feed rate now is 85 inches per minute. All right, that ran good. The surface is good enough for me. We're going to do a test hole. I've never done a cut like this. We're going to do a spiral cut all the way down, and I've just never done it with an O-Flute bit. So let's get that loaded up and see how that thing runs. Woo, worked beautifully. Let's load the rest of them up. I want to show you what this spiral drilling actually looks like in the control software. So if you come in a little close here, you're going to see these spring-like tool paths. And what the CNC bit is doing is it's coming to the top of the material and then it's spiraling down like a corkscrew. And that is a way to actually get a really accurate hole size. All right, we're going to run the rest of this out. I've got videos, by the way, that will shows you how to do this kind of hole. I'll link that down below in the description of this video. Oh, this is fun to watch. So the first two holes are 4.5 millimeters in diameter. These larger holes are 6.5 millimeters in diameter. That's really cool to watch, isn't it? So you notice these two here have fewer holes. They're a little bit shorter. What I'm making are spacers. That's going to help keep components on the machine that I'm putting these on from sliding around. Uh-oh, I got one more hole to do, so I'm going to program that in real quick and cut that out, and then we're going to try the cutout, test cutout of the first piece. I can hear it hanging up just a little bit in there, so maybe it's catching a few chips. But overall, it's making it all the way through the plastic. All right, here we go. Oh, I can hear it. You can hear that it didn't cut it all out. And when we look at this, actually started to melt the chips just a little bit. They look a little funny there, but maybe that's because it made a second round. That's actually the tape. That's the tape that's holding the project down. So good. I cut into the tape. There we go. Pop this puppy out. Come on. All right, so we can see there's a little bit of, no, it's not so bad. Except my holes aren't deep enough. So I'm gonna have to go back and do my holes, and then we'll go back and do the rest of the cutout. I actually did miss quite a bit of material on that, didn't I? I'm moving a little fast on this, and that speed is what makes mistakes. And you can see I've made mistakes already because of that. So here we go. We're gonna do the other 4 cutouts. I'm actually pretty pleased with how clean this has come out. Now I'm going to speed this up just a little bit. I was running at 60 inches per minute, now I'm going to 70 inches per minute. So you can hear it cutting some of the chips inside the slot. I think I'll slow it back down to its original feed rate, just because of that sound that I was getting inside that one pocket, or that cutout. All right, let's pop these out. All right, so we cut all the way through there, and this is the kind of finish we're getting when we're doing a technique like that. Good finish. This is why I like working with the HDPE, and our holes are all the way through. And let's see if I cut into my spoil board. I don't really need to worry about my main spoil board. Okay, let's see what we got. Yeah, we cut into the spoil board. And the good thing is I didn't cut into this spoil board. And look at these chips. Let's get a close-up look at these chips. They look so consistent and actually fun to kind of roll on your fingers. All right, so that's it. The deal here is using a sub-spoil board on top of your spoil board so you don't damage your spoil board or make it last a lot longer, especially for small projects like this. So we're using the EdgeHugger clamps, which are, again, very, very small clamps, very easy to set up, a lot more holding force than your standard clamps, and also very, very small footprint here. That's less than a 1/4 inch height, less than a 1/4 inch onto the material, and you have 1,000 pounds per square inch of holding force. And remember how strong these EdgeHugger clamps are holding. Would you trust your clamps to hold your project like this while you're hitting your project with a hammer? I think not. So I'll link those down below if you really want to upgrade your clamps. These are professional level clamps available at idcwoodcraft.com. And the O-Flute bit, I'll link that down below as well. So I was running that at 60 inches per minute. I bumped it up to 80 inches per minute when I was doing the surfacing, but everything else, 60 inches per minute, worked out really well. If you got something out of the video, leave a comment down below. Did you learn something out of this video? Is there something that I didn't do that I probably should have done? I did rush through this whole project, and that led to mistakes. So that's why we provide the CNC project setup checklist that I should be using, because I preach using it all the time for the exact reason of what happened here. 2 different mistakes. All right, my friend, I will see you in the next video.
Learn more now. Go to woodcraftresources.com.